Thank you. I am going to show you a video, and because it's 9 minutes long, I will just get right to it. This is pulled from our various collaborations with the experts who are either studying or teaching or practicing coexistence with, of course, our native lions. So here we go.
If we want to protect cattle from predation, then we need to actually change how we do this. If we want to protect the forest from the damage that livestock actually does to the forest, then we need to look at that. And it's forests, deserts, grasslands, where all this grazing is going on.
In the field of livestock protection and wildlife coexistence, adaptability is key. The most successful operators are those who say they employ a variety of tools, adapting as needed for each situation.
Where we graze sheep, we have a large mountain lion population, as well as bears, eagles, coyotes, all kinds of large predators. That said, we don't have a lot of conflict issues. We've had one loss to a mountain lion in about 6 years. And that was a situation where a juvenile mountain lion was really desperate because its mother had been shot by a neighbor. So given that, I'd say like we're able to ranch and run a fairly large grazing operation bordering state parkland with large populations of apex predators without having massive conflict issues.
For this Mendocino County grazer, that means a mix of high-tech and low-tech, incorporating portable systems that she can carry onto the open range.
Non-lethal predator management practices are practices that we have developed that help ranchers, hobby farmers, and private homeowners use non-lethal methods for protecting their livestock and their pets from predation, from mountain lions, coyotes, bears, wolves, whatever. And they're very effective. Without those methods, people usually will just resort to killing predators when they come into their yards or onto their lands, not recognizing that predators do not know the difference between their domestic animals or their pet and a wild animal. They're out on the land in their habitat and environment, and they are obviously going to hunt. They need to feed themselves and their families as well. So it's our responsibility, I believe firmly, to research these methods or be taught these methods and utilize them and take responsibility for our living in this habitat, in these ecosystems, around these large animals. And when we use these methods, it's a win-win situation for the hobbyist farmer, the private owner, the rancher, and wildlife.
Non-lethal predator management practices are part of an integrated approach to reducing human-carnivore conflict. They can consist of there's many tools that would be considered non-lethal, things like flagery, livestock protection dogs, even more simple actions like just removing attractants can be considered a non-lethal tool. So there's a lot of options out there that fall in there. I think at one point I made a list and came up with about 40 things on that list that would count as non-lethal tools. So when livestock are out on open range, sometimes we feel like our tools are a little bit more limited, mainly because they're huge landscapes and you might not even know what predators are present or not. And especially with mountain lions, which are extremely elusive species compared and often solitary. So they're sometimes harder to detect than some of our other carnivores that cause conflict. And unfortunately, there's not much research that has happened on how to prevent conflict on open range with mountain lions. Most of the research has been more focused on wolves or even grizzly bears, and also coyotes, of course. So we don't know much from a scientific standpoint. There's some anecdotal evidence that some things that might be effective on open range would be things like livestock protection dogs, range riders, or herders. But most, again, of that is anecdotal from other studies focused on other carnivores, and more research is needed on these techniques.
While awaiting more research, the experts on the ground, along with innovative ranchers, say practical experience provides ample evidence of what works.
On private rangelands, on people's large private farms or small farms, using dogs that have been bred specifically to herd these animals and protect them from predators is my #1 choice for protecting them, and it's highly effective. It works.
Something else that I think is important about these dogs, and you can see Fox too right now. Fox is our border collie. Fox is the opposite of these dogs. Fox has a lot of herding drive, whereas these dogs ideally have none. Fox is in charge of moving the sheep around the farm. These guys are in charge of making sure the sheep are safe. We had a sheep lambing last night, and I knew that there was either lambs being born or a sheep was hurt because Chago didn't come in for dinner. So finding Chago, you find the sheep, and she was lambing. She was having 2 beautiful twins.
Batiste, who says her grandfather would have loved the tools that she has available now, mixes the time-honored tool of livestock guardian dogs with newer technology like portable electric fencing, which you can carry to any remote location.
So I use a livestock trailer as a night shelter. This way they cannot get eaten by mountain lions or coyotes. This is a little intro to how I do night shelters with rotational grazing of cover crops in a situation where I don't have dogs.
The next step to wider scale adoption of these tools, connecting farmers, ranchers, and grazers to one another, encouraging an exchange of information.
Here in California, we have a great model of what it's looked like to have farmers and ranchers implement these non-lethal methods in a supported way in Marin. There's a cadre of ranchers in Marin County that have very effectively been implementing non-lethal predator controls in a way that's been supported by their county. I think that they're a great case to look at. The county has compensated them for some losses, given them financial incentives for putting these practices into place, help cost share. And then there's also been farmer and rancher accountability within that, where a group of ranchers has been determining how these things are being carried out. And, for instance, holding each other accountable and saying like, well, you're getting paid out for the loss of some lambs, but you didn't do the thing that you were supposed to do to prevent the loss from happening. So do the thing and you'll get paid out, So I think that programs like that are incredibly, incredibly valuable because it does take a communal effort. If I'm trying to establish a healthy relationship with the local apex predator population, but I have a neighbor that just shoots everyone that he sees, we're actively working against each other. These animals have huge ranges. Most small homesteaders or small-scale ranchers and grazers are not controlling land that's the whole area of a mountain lion's territory. So we have to work together. We have to create systems of accountability together.
When we kill predators and use lethal management practices, we're actually damaging the ecosystems that they inhabit, which, whether we care about wildlife or not, that also will impact humans. When we use non-lethal methods and allow these animals to live their lives out in their ecosystems and habitat, it supports a healthy ecosystem. As a scientist and as a biologist, I question not only the scientific backing of what we're doing, but also the ethics of what we're doing. And I believe there's a better way.
Thank you, Michelle. That was beautiful imagery.
It is pretty, isn't it? I agree. Thank you all.